Feeling friends is this concept that I came up with laying in bed one night. I have all these close friends who have these wonderful stories that can help change the world, life experiences that can help other people believe in themselves, hold tight to their dreams and make their dreams reality. On Feeling Friends, we talk about God, we talk about love, relationships. I have celebrity friends, I have non-celebrity friends. I have church members, family members. But when you watch and listen to Feeling Friends, you will learn and you will laugh. It's a community of friends helping to build each other up. So tune in to Feeling Friends every Sunday on WHCR 90.3 FM, or you can catch me on YouTube at Feeling Friends Radio. All right, I'll see you there. WHCR 90.3 FM, the voice of Harlem. What's up, everybody? It's me, Phil, and I'm back here live in my home studio. We're back in the studio, but I had to get this interview with my homeboy, BJ Thompson. He is the author. He is he does everything, a writer, author, life coach, and one of my good friends now. He wrote a great book. It's called 4 Simple Steps to Create the Life You Want. Awaken A Better You with BJ Thompson. So I'm going to bring him right in. We're going to jump right into the show. We're going to have a great show. I want you guys to take notes because he's going to drop a lot of jewels that's going to help you grow and develop as a person, as a human. It's going to help your family. So without further ado, here's my friend BJ Thompson. If I can push this thing. There we go. BJ, what's up, brother?
Hey, what's up, man? How you doing today, Phil?
I'm good. I'm so happy to see you.
Yeah, I'm so happy to see you too as well. You know what? And I heard you guys had smog, so I'm really glad to see you. Because I didn't know if you guys can be seen today.
Right. Thank you. The smog has not killed us. It has moved on to D.C. and Baltimore and Pennsylvania. So we are happy about that. But we hope our friends down there are getting better. So they got to do something about that. Listen, let's go ahead and jump right into. Listen, you're from Dallas, where I'm from, Dallas, Texas. We've been knowing each other for a while. We actually got a chance to sit down in Atlanta when I was in Atlanta, when I had gave a speech at my alma mater, Clark Atlanta, and I got to know you really well. And you shared some really great things that I want you to share with our audience today. Mm-hmm. Before we jump into your book and before we jump into your organization, let's talk about who you are and your background.
Yeah. So I'm BJ Thompson. I'm a Dallas native, not a Cowboy fan or hater. Love my hometown. I am the author of Awaken A Better You. I'm the oldest of 3. My mother had me at the age of 17 years old. My dad left school in the 10th grade. And I've been forced by the nature of my story to learn how to be great at life, right? Again, you come from a certain environment with a certain background and then begin to move around. And quickly you just realize, man, if you don't have the skills, then you quickly begin to drown. My passion is helping and developing people. I've been married for 21 years this year.
That's a long time. You're not even that old.
Yeah, man. Look, 21
years. Wow.
Yeah.
We got to talk about that too. We got to bring your wife on.
Yeah. But yeah, so again, and I live in Atlanta, Georgia. I'm passionate about helping people grow and develop.
Absolutely. I want to go back to Dallas, and I want to talk about your life in Dallas, if you don't mind. You said your
D-Town.
D-Town. They call it the Triple D. What? I don't even know what the Triple D stands for.
That's they start calling it Triple D when they start gentrifying it.
Oh, is that what
when I was growing up? No, when we were coming up, it was just Dallas and outside of Dallas.
Right. It was north, south, Oak Cliff. That's all I knew.
Yeah. Pleasant Grove, Oak Cliff. Yeah.
Pleasant Grove, Oak Cliff, Garland, those places. That's all we knew. Now it's a whole nother. You go back to Dallas. It's nice. It's nicer, but it is gentrified. But that's a whole.
Yeah, it's gentrified. That's what Triple D is.
Let's talk about when you grew up in Dallas when it wasn't gentrified.
Yeah.
What was that life like for you?
Woo, goodness, scary, rough. Man, I remember growing up. So first and foremost, Dallas, Texas is a beautiful city, right? There's all sorts of types of people, experiences, and realities. When you grow up in certain areas, you get exposed more to certain realities than other realities. And so for me, Dallas has always been a place where people have grit. People have, just this will. It's weird. It's like a resilience that you have. People are very faith driven, right? I think when you think about some of the
mega churches in Dallas.
Yeah, the biggest churches in the world are all crammed up in Dallas, right?
Oak Cliff, really? Right in Oak Cliff, that area.
That's right. Yeah, and I mean, it was very volatile. I remember when we were growing up, it was very volatile. And so my upbringing was at the height of gangs. You know, people from California I guess they thought it was cool. And it was like, man, we're going to drop these gangs off in these neighborhoods. And so we organized around gangs. And so I grew up heavily influenced by gang culture. But, you know, I also...
What Dallas did you grow up in?
South Dallas, Oak Cliff, and Pleasant Grove.
Okay.
Yep. And so most of my life, I think a lot of my upbringing was really just, you know, it was characterized by hard outside, but I had a lot of love on the inside. And so that's what my upbringing was. I grew up in a very loving home and a loving family.
You know, you talk about the gang culture in Dallas, and that's so unfamiliar to me.
Really?
Yeah, we talked about this, and it was so people. I did not know anything about gangs. I didn't know anything about like the hood life, and I grew up in Oak Cliff. I mean, it wasn't like the richest area, but I grew up off Marcellus and Ledbetter. But the only thing I knew about like gang bangers were the people that like Big T Bazaar on Sundays.
Oh yeah.
We don't go up there on Sundays and Glendale Park on Sundays.
I love Glendale Park on Sundays. This is my favorite thing to do.
Oh, we didn't go up there on Sunday. That's not what we do.
Oh, yeah, I love it.
But it was until I got to Lincoln. Yes. I didn't know about gangs, and it was the whole Bonton and Dixon area, and people were fighting. And I was like, man, you know, we were busted from Oak Cliff. What was that like, and how was that as a young black man?
Ooh,
how did you navigate out of that?
That's a great question. So, you know, for many people, you know, and this is somewhat historical, right? So we're talking about post-civil rights. You know, you got the civil rights era, which is about segregated communities. Black people all kind of clustered in one place at the same time. Then you have the Civil Rights Act, which gave people the ability to move specifically into different types of neighborhoods, backgrounds, and whatnot. And that was America, right? Then you get the war on drugs, right? Where these neighborhoods are now flooded with drugs, but then they're also like terrorized with police. And then gangs form, right, to fight over resources and money and power and all these different things. And so growing up as a young man in this environment, you know, a lot of times you either, you know, you ever heard the phrase, you were either predator or prey?
Right. Yeah.
Right. And you had to decide very quickly. And so, you know, again, many people ask me, Coach, where's your resilience come from? It feels like you're really kind of edgy. It's like, well, if you grow up in an environment that forces you to jump out very early, you have to make decisions really quickly, right? Do you stay at home? Do you hide and try to get there as fast as possible? Or do you adapt and you adjust and you learn the people there? And they're not all bad, right? What you realize, they're just regular people.
Well, I think they're not bad. They're not bad, but sometimes people make bad decisions, but it's a product of their environment. It's almost like
absolutely.
It's almost like a survival kind of thing.
Absolutely.
But at some point, you get to the point where it's like, okay, I got to make a better choice for myself and my family. And I think that's what you did, right? You made a better choice for yourself and to let that go.
Absolutely.
Where did you get that resilience from? To let
I guess that's what I'm saying about the environment. You said, how was it growing up in it? And what I'm saying is, once you make the decision to jump off the porch, what you realize is that these are just regular people who have a tough exterior. And so everybody is not as bad as you think. They are a product of the environment and the habits that they've made. And now it begins to kind of like wash itself together into neighborhood cycles. And so, you know, much of my upbringing, man, having to learn how to be around individuals who would literally do whatever, like that changes how you move in life, because you realize that life is precious. It's way more precious than what you know, because it can end really quickly.
And it's short. Right.
Yeah.
Really, very short. What do you say to the young black man who's watching you right now and say, man, I don't know how to get out of it, or young lady, I don't know how to get out of this situation, or get out of the hood, or pull myself? What would you tell them?
Yeah, Ja Morant. So the Ja Morant effect. Get your $200 million, flash a gun. Oh yeah, I know. I'm like, why you got $200 million flashing a gun? Like, what is this about?
It's psychology. It's whatever they call it. That's a whole mental thing.
They call it ghetto nihilism.
Ghetto who?
Nihilism.
Ghetto nihilism. I've never heard that term. What does that mean for people?
It basically means the normalization of values that derive from the ghetto. Wow. When Black Americans were desegregated, some people attach to what's called ghetto nihilism. It's what we see in rap, right? It's a culture that says, I belong here, even if my lived experience is somewhere else. Right. So it's like it's you gravitate to the value system of the ghetto, and it's called ghetto nihilism. You know, what I would say is I've lived in all the environments, right? I've traveled the world, I've spoken everywhere, I coach everywhere. One of the things that I would just say, just get exposed, right? Read vastly, get out, get an experience, even if it's getting off your street, right? Have your people take you to some part of town that you don't think you belong, because you do belong there. Plan a trip, right? Save a couple of $100, go out of state, go to Louisiana, go to California, go see how other people live. Plan an international trip, right? If it takes you 5 years to save up your check, you know, your refund check, $200, you can take you get you a ticket and then get you a passport and go see how other people live. And so some of the ways, you know, that we begin to break through is just by being exposed. Go to New York.
And right? That, you know, just the exposure, man, that's a really great point, because kids, and my mama said this when I was a kid, she used to work, she was an elementary school teacher when I was a little kid, and she would take her kids on field trips because they would only know the hoods they lived in. Right. And so just go, and I was a teacher for a while, kids don't even go to certain other neighborhoods. That's you can be in South Dallas, and all you have to do is go across the bridge, maybe 10 minutes, and you're a whole different part of Dallas, and they would never know, like, oh, I can live here too one day. So you're right, that exposure is key. And even adults need to be exposed to different things and open your mind. That's a really great point.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know, that's the key, man, is that when I started getting exposed, the first time I got exposed, I went to Louisiana. I went to Shreveport. My first time ever being outside of Texas.
How old were you?
I was 18 years old. That was my first time.
That was the first time out of Texas?
Yeah, first time. I didn't think I
live like 15 minutes away from Shreveport, which is crazy.
Texas is a nation. If you're from Texas,
wow, that's crazy.
Yeah, you think it's a nation. You know the blue bonnet flag, you know the blue bonnet flower, the Texas flag, you know all these different things. You don't know that there's a world outside of this.
Right.
And so the first time I left, I went to Shreveport, and I remember my mind being blown by the way they lived. You know, live on these ports, they live on these boats. They have this it's a different way of living. And I remember just being around, and I remember thinking, oh, this is incredible. This is not Dallas.
That's so
they had their own language, their own like different way of doing life. And so absolutely, just being exposed gives us the opportunity to imagine a new life and a new hope. And that's what I think really changes people.
Man, that's awesome. I used to go to Shreveport all the time. I was like, this is different. So that's, but you know what? People have different lives, and it's so important for people. And I'm learning now, a lot of us have a lot of privileges, and so being able to expose, just tell other people about what, like you exposing people, just telling people will help expose them as well. Let's jump right into the book. What made you want to write 4 Simple Steps to Create the Life You Want? Awaken a Better You. Listen, I started listening to this, what do you call it? That was my first audiobook. And I was listening to it when I was like laying in bed at nighttime, just to decompress. I do a lot of work during the day. And I was like, man, this is a really good book. Even the first person who started, you know, your speaker, whatever you call them, it was just a relaxing book, and it gave really great advice. What made you want to write this book?
It's a great question. You know, I've had a lot of pain in my life, right? You know, you start talking about, man, you grow up in this environment and you're navigating so much conflict all the time. As I've had to navigate it, I'm the oldest of 3. My mother had me at 17. My dad left school in the 10th grade. You try to categorize the pain. You try to figure out, what is this for, right? Again, you're talking about all these difficult things. And in these lessons, right? So you move from one environment to the next. You move from this environment to that environment. And you're gaining all of these skills. And what made me write the book was I realized that we're not as different as we think we are, right? Oftentimes we're just coming from different backgrounds, different exposures, different streets, different cities. Many of us are the same, right? Again, I was on my little street in Dallas, in my little area in Dallas. Someone's on their little street in the suburbs. Someone's on their little street in the farm town. Someone's on their little street in the private community. And we're all kind of in these little segmented things, and we think we're so different because we live in this different type of house and different type of background. And when you start to transcend these places and things, you begin to see common themes around growth and development. Every time I've come to these new places and I saw these new people, I see the same concepts over and over. And I recognize that most people are not living the awakened life. Most people.
Let me stop you there. What is the awakening life? Let's talk about that. I know people are going to ask.
Yeah, the awakening of life is where you take control of your life. You stop letting life happen and you live life. You stop hoping that the economy is great and you begin to build your own infrastructure. You start hoping that you are able to do the things you always passionate about and you begin to build these things. The awakened life is when you stop waiting for someone else to give you the answers and you become the answer that you've been waiting on.
Right.
And so part of the dilemma for me is you come from all of these hard things. You think, well, this has just got to be my life. I guess the rest of my life has just got to be hard, as opposed to saying, what are the ingredients that I've been handed? You ever heard that phrase? If somebody in life hands you lemons, make lemonade. Right. It's like, well, man, I got not just lemonade, I got lemon pie. Right. I ain't got lemon, I got lemon wedges. Like I got a whole
rain pie.
That's right.
Well, what do you say to the person that, you know, because I'm just being because when you deal with people like this, they're usually not optimistic, right? They're pessimistic.
Yeah.
But I don't want lemons. I don't like lemons. I want a better life, but what you're talking about is just whatever. But what would you say to help that person? Or what steps would you say or to get out the funk? So you know. Yeah.
So first and foremost, you have to check your self-sabotage. Too many people are living in self-sabotage mode, right? And because they're living in self-sabotage, even when they begin to perceive a different type of outcome, they kill it, right? So it's like, I can't go further because you ever heard the phrase, better the devil you know than the one you don't, right? So it's like you go back to the thing that you've always known, which is certain challenges, outcomes, and experiences. And so you have to check self-sabotage. The other thing that you have to do, you got to get
wait, I'll stop you there. Explain what self-sabotage is to people, because I like to explain stuff for people who don't know.
Yeah, so self-sabotage is essentially when we go into an environment and we're seeking a new outcome, but because it's so different than what we've done, we go back to what we've always known. So let's say, for example, I knew a guy who wanted to be married. He wanted to date to marry. And every time he would start dating a new person, he would, go through the whole process. He'd get about 6 months to a year in, and he would destroy the relationship. And at first I thought, well, maybe the relationship is just falling apart. After about 5 to 7 years, I realized, oh my gosh, you're killing these things. Yeah. You're killing the relationship. So every time
you're away or doing things like, I get you. Yeah.
That's right. Every time you get past a certain threshold, you actually talk about everything that's wrong, everything that's not right, everything that's not this, because you are terrified because the next phase is a phase you have never been to before. So that's what self-sabotage. That's why I said the phrase, better the devil you know than the one you don't know. Right? But one of the things I love to challenge people on is this. You ever seen the movie The Matrix?
I have. Mr. Anderson.
Yeah. So there's a part in the movie The Matrix where Neo is being dragged out, right? He's starting to make this choice. He's becoming a different person. And they find like this little thing that's tracking him. It's trying to keep him inside. And they say, we can take this out of you. It's going to be painful, but we can take it out.
Keep talking to me.
He's squirming. He's fighting in the back seat. And he's feeling like, man, I don't know if I want to go through this process. They look at Neo, and then they say to Neo, he opens up the door. He looks out backwards from the car. Trinity says to Neo, you already know where that road leads. You know where that goes.
Right.
You don't know what forward looks like, right? This is where self-sabotage has to be checked. We don't know where forward looks like until we get around people who are living in the reality that we desire. We're going to constantly be tempted to self-sabotage. And that's one of the things that we have to be on guard for.
And you know what I've learned, and people always say, Phil, how you just get up and go? Yeah, I will move. I will change a city. I will move to a new place because I know it's always something better. Good. But I think you have to look. You have to get in the mindset to know there is something better. I can make more money because I know I can. I can do this. So it's always something better for you. So I will take that advice, audience. what other steps would you have for us, for people?
Yeah. So this is another great question. So one of the other things that I would say is you have to know your own story. Right? A lot of times we're trying to live somebody else's story. It has nothing to do with us, right? Again, you hear my story, and my story is my story. I'll give you a perfect example. You know, I've been around a lot of people, and I remember thinking every time I get around very insecure people, they compete with me. And I'm like, why are you competing? What are you competing for? And I realized that my assertiveness and self-confidence, they think I'm being arrogant. I'm just being myself. I'm not trying to compete.
Right.
But in their mind, because they have something to prove, they think we're doing the same things. And then I say to myself, well, we can't clearly be competing because we started at different places. You started out of this place and ended up here. Right? One of my best friends says, you got the ball on the 1 yard line, right? You scored, right? Mm-hmm. I started so far behind that for me to try to compare my story to yours is unfair, right? It's like, if I know where I started at, to compare my journey to where you are right now, it's just an unfair comparison. We're not starting in the same place. And so it's so important for you to know your story. Again, most people want to tell a bad story so they can look like a good person. Right. The reality is
a lot. I noticed that a lot. A lot of people do that. And it's okay to have a good story.
Yeah. It's really okay. Hey, listen. It's
man, I hear that all the time. Yeah, it's okay to have a good story, because that's inspiring. Like maybe somebody, not to down anybody else's life, but maybe somebody else did do something different. So
that's right. Don't job and rant your life, right? Don't job.
I noticed that, especially with Black people too. He's like, "Oh, I'm from the projects." I'm like, and then you realize you're from the projects. You're not from the. But it sounds good. That's what, and everybody wants to relate. But your story is your story, and your story is. I tell people all the time, I'm a 4th generation college graduate.
Good.
That is something powerful because my family is from South Dallas from the 1800s. So they experienced a lot of racism and dealing with white folk and negative people. That your story is not my story. It's a totally completely story, but my story has validity and it's a story that's relatable to so many other people. And I tell people what's for you is for you.
That's right.
And what God has for you is for you, because I can go places you can't.
That's right.
You can go places I can't. And you can touch people that I can't. So we all have a different story. And that's so important. So thank you for touching on that.
And you know what? That's how we're able to reach more.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
By us honoring our own unique vantage points and our own unique stories. And then when we collaborate, we're able to reach different type of folks. Again, you have to embrace your story, but you have to tell the truth and have pride, good and bad, of who you are.
And nobody can compete with you. What is the competition? All the people that compete on the NBA or compete on the court, like there's no competition with anything. That is, like you said, they are self-conscious, right?
That's right. Not self-aware. The goal is to be self-aware, not self-conscious. When you're thinking about you all the time, we're always going to have to compete. When you're thinking about being self-aware, you're able to give value to others. And this is one of the key things that I've learned as a coach. And even as in the Builders Network, I've learned that if you can help somebody see themselves, you can add value to their life without it feeling like this competitive experience that takes away from the process of growth and development.
Let's talk about the Build a Better You.
Yeah.
That I'm a part of. I pay my dues too. Let's talk about that. And why did you start that or get a part of it, and tell people if they want to join it?
It's a great question. So what I realized is I did not know that I had the gift of development, right? Spent all this time, again, remember, just moving from place to place, being shy, right? I'm that person just like, I don't know, how did I end up here? Why is this not working? And it's because I had a mother. Remember my story? I had a mother that had me at 17 years old. I had a father who dropped out of the 10th grade. So every part of my growth and development after a certain points of survival, I did not even have the tools. Well, I've gone 23 years, 10,000 plus people in development. I realized that I had the gift of development. When I learned that I had the gift of development, I started getting to these places where I started outgrowing everything. So everything I would touch, I would outgrow. And I didn't understand what was going on. It just always felt like ended up in these new places. Finally, I started outgrowing my professional life. Like, man, every time I come to a company, they create a new position or I would just outgrow the company. So I was like, man, I don't know how to not make this thing something. Well, once you get into the marketplace, you realize that you need both a personal and professional development that are kind of like they're integrating. They're going together at the same time. And I didn't know what to do. I didn't know how to balance my professional life, my personal life, my money, my mental health, my physical health, all at the same time. So I started developing tools. As I began to develop tools, people started asking me, how the heck did you do this? How are you able to bring together these concepts so seamlessly? And that's what birthed the Builders Network. What birthed the network was people just kept asking, I don't know how you're able to do this. How are you able to like flow in and out between working in celeb culture, regular culture, professional culture? How do you work on families? And I'm like, I just think that it's something, as long as you have the tools, all of us are capable. And it all depends on where you are, right? It's not about where someone else is. It's about where you are. And so the Builders Network,
Absolutely. I agree with you. It's about where you are. Yeah.
Yeah. So the Builders Network really started off of that. We, if you visit buildabetterus.com, we're still working on I'm literally in the process of releasing it. If you visit buildabetterus.com, go to book a coach, go to free consultation. I'd love to connect with you and begin to start the interview process to see if you're a good fit for that program.
Absolutely. Let's talk about final thoughts. What kind of advice would you give to our audience? Final thoughts. And before we do that, tell people how to reach you. Tell people how to get this book, Build a Better Us. So go ahead and give all that information as well.
Got it. So you want to reach me on socials. Again, you can go to buildabetterus.com. Simple. You can also find my new book, Awaken A Better You. It's out everywhere, anywhere books are sold. Go to Walmart, go to Target, go to Barnes & Noble, go anywhere, go to Audible. You can find my book. You can also visit Apple, Spotify podcasts, or buildabetteruspodcast.com if you want to hear me. And if you would like to hear more about the network, visit Build a Better Us, go book a coach, and then book a free consultation, and then we'll connect and we can talk more about the process.
Absolutely. So give us your final thoughts that our audience can take away with today.
I think that people are waiting for some magical moment. They're hoping that life just gets better, right? And you sense this yearning and this groaning inside of you that seems to be unquenchable by doing the mediocre thing. That unquenchable thing that you feel is what we call purpose. And purpose is interconnected with your pain. Until you have a clear pathway on how to bring your pain together to match your purpose, you're going to find yourself very disgruntled with life. Here's what I want to say to you if you are watching this right now. You don't have to live a mediocre life. You can actually live an extraordinary life right where you are. But it's going to take some intentionality by you working with, not just within your own tuition, but with experts that help you develop your gift, your passion, and your burdens in a way that can be mature for the season that you're in. I believe that every person has an extraordinary gift. And if you can just tap into your story, if you can tap into resources, you can tap into other people, you can begin to live a life that you're proud of, and then you can begin to leave a legacy that will be impactful.
Well, that's powerful. Believe in yourself and you can make a difference. BJ, thank you so much for coming on air.
Thank you so much. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely. Hold tight in the break room for me, all right? Green room.
Thank you.
We want to thank Coach BJ Thompson for coming live on air. You can get his book on Amazon, Audible. I'm going to post it right here at the bottom of the show. Listen, believe in yourself. Believe in yourself. Put God first and watch everything come together. You're watching Phil and Friends right here on WHCR 90.3 FM, the voice of Harlem. I'll see y'all next time. Peace.